Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is King-mong and I work with the Carnegie Community Action Project. We're standing here today on unceded Coast Salish territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. Indigenous people have gone through so much trauma and suffering through colonization and residential school, and they still do. They need a place for healing. That is why I support the Low Incomes Caucus position calling on City Council to make the Aboriginal Healing and Wellness Center a quick start item. And the caucus wants intergenerational low-income housing on top of the center as well. We have a crisis here. 4,000 people living in SROs with terrible, undignified housing and 431 homeless. And these aren't statistics or numbers. They're human beings just like you and I. And you notice many speakers have brought this up already, and that's why we have over 6,000 signatures for our 2 petitions and more coming in. And that's why the plan needs to build 5,000 units of social housing on welfare pension rate within 10 years. And the crisis is getting worse. Our neighborhood is being invaded by gentrification, by condos, expensive housing, high-end businesses, boutique shops. And as a result, we're seeing massive increases in land values in the downtown Eastside. We're seeing rent increasing beyond what low-income residents can afford, and people are being displaced. This year, we've lost another 236 low-income units. 236 more units are renting about $425 a month. Compare that with the $375 that low-income people like people on welfare have. $375 is not enough, and through the plan, the City Council needs to strongly advocate provincial governments for higher welfare rates. How many more low-income units have to be lost? And how many more people need to be displaced out of this area before you take strong actions to protect them and courageous and bold actions, as someone said earlier? As a result of gentrification, low-income Chinese seniors living in non-profit housing have also faced the possibility of rent increases as high as 40%. In responding to Councillor Tang's comment from Wednesday, increasing the safer limits only treats one of the symptoms of the issue, but does not address the cause at all. How can we treat our seniors like this by not addressing gentrification? We have to slow it and stop it. The rezoning of the Oppenheimer district to 60/40 can slow this process down. And I'm asking here for at least that, at least 60/40, because 100% social housing is what our community needs. 60/40 will slow the increase in land prices, control hotel rents from going up even more, and make land more affordable so that we can get the housing we need. And yes, again, social housing by strongly advocating seniors levels of government, provincial and federal. However, that being said, the 60/40 proposal is heavily diluted by the weak definition of social housing proposed. We need all social housing to be accessible to people on welfare pension rate of $375. I speak here today bringing also the voices of many Chinese community members that I've talked to and met in the area. They tell me that food prices are increasing rapidly these past few years in the shops they shopped at for decades, consuming more and more of their meager incomes already heavily burdened with medication costs. 2 weeks ago, a low-income Chinese elder living in Chinatown asked me, "The developments coming up in Chinatown, are they for us?" I was ashamed to tell him the truth that only 22 units of more than 500 units are for the low-income community, and only half of that a shelter pension rate. Shame. He and the other Chinese community members in the room were appalled. And I got a similar response when I told another group of Chinese community members about the targets for affordability because they realized that the majority of so-called social housing would be inaccessible to them. And they want new developments that have higher percentages of social housing at welfare pension rate. Despite the poor housing conditions in the downtown Eastside, there is an amazing existing community in the downtown Eastside. People have talked about this. People who have a community of services, resources, and support networks that they have built. People who have a right to remain where they live. People who have a right to not be priced out of their neighborhood and their community due to gentrification. In City Council, the choice lies before you with this local area plan. If you don't put in 60/40 zoning in the Oppenheimer district, at least 60/40 zoning, define social housing to be accessible to people on welfare, pension rate, and implement other points of the low-income caucus position, you will be putting forward a plan that would tear apart this beloved community. Saturday, November 15th, municipal election. And you can be sure I will tell others in the Chinese community and broader of the decision made for this plan and what each of you stood. MLA Kwan and MP Davies supported 60/40, and social housing must be accessible to people on welfare pension rate. And I hope you would do the right thing and affect the low-income caucus position, the plan, and the amendments that CAP has called on you to make in our letter that you have received. Thank you, and if anyone would like to ask questions about the rent in the nonprofit housing, I'm open to that.
You do have some questions. Thank you.